Good afternoon, YouTube. What's going on? It's your boy D back with another video. I wanted to first off by saying thank you guys. Everybody that has been subscribing, thank you. Everybody that's been commenting on my videos, thank you. Liking my videos, thank you. My most popular video right now is why I got kicked out of Jehovah's Witness, the organization, and that video has been really picking up a lot of traffic. So excuse me, I want to thank you guys for again liking and subscribing, and the numbers have keep going up and going up. So keep doing it. Share it if you think it could help somebody. I'm all about here helping somebody, sharing my story, just sharing my story. And again, thank you. If you find value in my content, please like, please subscribe, please comment. If you have something positive to say, please, we welcome that. If you have something negative to say, please keep it to yourself. With my video that's really trending right now, I had a couple negative comments on there, and I expected that with the amount of people that have viewed it, so it's only to be expected. But I will say, just like that old saying, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. Even with those people that have said negative things, I'll like their comment, or I'll say something positive in return. I won't come back with any negativity, because that's not what this is about. And I think a lot of people think that are ex-JWs that if you come negative to us, we're going to be very combatant with you. And what I find is a lot of ex-JW channels, which I really don't consider mine an ex-JW channel. I really don't, because I have other content unrelated to ex-JW or JW. So my content is a little bit of a mixture of a couple of different things. Just my story, pretty much, and where I'm at in life. But back to that topic of the ex-JW thing, I realized when I see videos and ex-JWs get in contact with active Jehovah's Witnesses, the active Jehovah's Witnesses tend to be very combative with them when they start questioning certain things that isn't biblical. It's just organizational based. So a lot of us are not going to go back and forth with you if you have a negative comment. We're just going to wish you the best and hope that you find whatever you're looking for. Because obviously, if you're on here, you're looking for something. It may not be what I'm saying or anybody else is saying, but you're looking for something. You're curious. So that's a start. And it's a process. And you'll hear me say that over and over again in my last videos. But if you don't know anything about me, you can look at my other videos. But if you're new to my channel, welcome. I thank you for coming. I thank you for listening. I thank you for watching. I thank you for hopefully commenting, hopefully liking, hopefully subscribing. But a little about me, a little background about me. I was born into a religion called the Jehovah's Witnesses. I will refer them as JWs to keep it short. I'm fourth generation. My great grandmother, I apologize, in Brooklyn, New York. Then my grandmother, my father, and then myself later on in life. And long story short, I'll get that later. I walked away. It wasn't for me. I don't want to harp too much on that. If you want more detailed stories, look at my other videos. But I walked away. It wasn't for me. I saw things that I wasn't happy about. I saw things that I didn't want to put my name to. I figure that your name, or I know that your name is very important, and your reputation is very important. And at one time, I didn't mind putting my name to that organization of Jehovah's Witnesses, because I believe their policies, I believe their structure, and the organization itself was a God-fearing, clean organization. I realized that wasn't the case. It was a man-made organization that had a pecking order. And if anybody's watching this video that doesn't aren't familiar with religion or familiar with cults or familiar with Jehovah's Witnesses, you're probably thinking like, well, every religion's like that. But if you're born in, you know, or if you have family members that were born in, you know that they have this way about them that they make you feel that they're the only true religion on the face of the earth. They're the only ones that have a connection with God. So when you find that that's not true, it's a kind of eye opener and kind of an aha moment, and it's a moment that you kind of get offended that you wasted so much time and energy in your life. And that's where I got to in my life. And I realized that I'm not gonna do this to my kids, and I'm not gonna put them through that, and I'm not gonna do that myself. And I'm gonna push my life forward in a different direction. So that's what I chose to do. And as I'm along this journey, I wanted to help people and share my story and hope that it helps somebody else along the way. And as you guys see me, because I'm not all the way there yet, I'm not perfect. I'll never be perfect. I may strive for it, but I understand I'll never get there. But if I can be a little bit better today than I was yesterday, if I can make this video a little better today than it was the last video, that's what I'm gonna try to do. Give you guys the best of me, the best content I can possibly give you, as much as I can. And the time I have and the energy I have, I want to portray that through the lens, through the camera, and hopefully I can help at least one person. That's the goal, help one person. When I was removed or disfellowshipped some years ago, there wasn't as many people on here like that. There wasn't as many people telling their story. There's still more people, a lot more fearful of getting in front of camera. And I'm glad that a lot of people are shaking that off. Older men, younger men, different nationalities, elders, ministerial servants, some circuit overseers. These are all titles. If you're not familiar with the organization, these are all titles that they have in that organization. So I want to talk to the people that are familiar with the terms. I also want to talk to people that are unfamiliar, that may have some kind of insight, or people that have no insight. I want to share that. I want to keep you guys along with the journey and with the video. I don't want to exclude anybody. But I realized that years ago that wasn't for me, right? And I took a segue in my life and I got into law enforcement. And this video is going to talk about more of that, along with the JW mindset, but I'm kind of shifting. So if you're here for a little bit of the XJW stuff, stay tuned. If you're here for the correctional officer stuff, stay tuned, because I'm going to talk about a little bit that more this video. When I left the Jehovah's Witness fully, I was out maybe a year and a half. I went to start my career, right? I went to start my career as a correctional officer. Now, those of you that are not familiar with Jehovah's Witnesses, we're not supposed to go in that type of field. Anything where you can possibly kill somebody in line of duty or as your job is kind of frowned upon. But I got to a point in my life where I need to provide for myself, provide for my family, that I really didn't care. And I was so disgusted of how I was being treated. I was so disgusted of learning information about the organization, sharing with my family that were actively in, and they kind of just shrugging it off as, well, things happen, that I was like, you know what? Screw y'all. I'm going to do me. Since y'all doing y'all and you know things ain't right, I'm going to do me and do what I think is right and serve my community, serve the state I was in by becoming law enforcement. So that's what I did. I took the test. I was still living up north at the time. I took the test for the state of North Carolina, and which needs a lot of officers right now. So if you're interested in getting into law enforcement, if you're interested in getting into corrections, look at the South. The South needs officers bad. They don't pay as much, but you will get into the job. You will have pension benefits, all that stuff. Just had to put that side note out there. But so I got into the prison system of North Carolina, worked at a state prison, was closed custody, to medium closed. So basically, we had medium offenders to closed custody offenders, which is pretty much like a high max facility. And when I got there, before I got there, I watched a lot of videos, right? I watched a lot of Prison Break, Locked Up Raw, Lockdown Raw, Lockdown Vegas, Locked Up New York, whatever it was, anything with a lock in it, I watched it, right? Because I'm trying to prepare myself, thinking if I watch this stuff, I'll be mentally ready to go in. I start working out, hitting the gym, I start running every day, thinking that, hey, I'm gonna have to run to a call. I start lifting because I'm thinking these guys are lifting, 24/7, so I gotta be in shape because I gotta fight these guys. That was my mentality, right? And I got in there, and it was something like that, but it wasn't to the point that I really thought. Like, I could have avoided watching all those shows and been perfectly fine, but I did so anyway. And I got into actually a good unit. Every officer in that unit had at least, I think, 7 to 8 years plus experience. So I was more with a seasoned group of people, which was good for me. Which was good for me because I was just learning the job. I wanted to learn things right. I wanted to understand what I was doing, and I didn't want to get myself hurt or anybody else hurt. So it was good to be with seasoned officers, people that have been there for years, right? And two of the people, they were from where I'm from, New York. So we kind of had some, rapport right there. And it was good. I mean, I enjoyed the beginning of my career in corrections. I really did. I worked with some great people. I had their back. I knew they had my back. I got great training from them. Right, right on the ground floor training. They took me along. They carried me under their wing. So shout out to those people. If you ever watched this, my boy Adams. I think she's a sergeant or lieutenant now, Hatchet, and my boy Miller. I'll name those three because those three had the most impressionable on me, or most impressionable on me, starting my career. So again, I went through my process of learning the job. With North Carolina, unless they changed it, it was a 2 year. It was a 2 year probation period, right? So you had to be in the job 2 years. Unlike some jobs where it's like 3 months, 6 months. Uh, at this time, North Carolina, a little over 10 years ago, was a 2 year probation period. So I think I was maybe, I don't think I was quite through my probation period yet. I'm not sure. It might have been just ending my probation period or close to it. Regardless, you meet a lot of people, right? And I'm talking about a lot of inmates, a lot of criminals. And not everybody's bad, right? Some people just were at the wrong place in the wrong time, and their family didn't have money, and they got a public pretender. I don't want to say defender, public pretender, and they got a raw deal out the way, right? So I remember my grandfather saying 25% of the people locked up are innocent, right? So I keep that in the back of my mind, but at the same time, I still got to do a job, correct? My job is to protect the public, protect other inmates, protect other staff. So I remember this one individual. I can't remember his name because I'm not good with names, but I remember his face. If I saw him right now, I would know him. And he was from Charlotte, North Carolina, and one of my most respectful inmates, right? And every time you see Mr. Horn, how you doing, sir? Da da da. I'm like, this guy's, there's something up with him. Like, he's just too nice. You know what I mean? He may not be like that around other inmates, but around me, he's very nice. But I watched him around the staff, and everybody said good things about him. And even around other inmates, he wasn't super aggressive. He wasn't an inmate that would punch the door, bang on the door. He wasn't an inmate that be cursing out staff. He wasn't flooding his cell. He wasn't throwing food. He wasn't threatening nobody. So I watched him. For a couple weeks. And I remember pulling him to the side. I said, come here. And he came over, and I said, what's up with you, man? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, why are you something different about you. Why are you so different, right? And it's funny because he started laughing, and then he said to me, he said, "Why are you so different?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "You're not like the other officers." He said, you treated with respect. You come here, you do your job. You don't, have your chip on your shoulder. You don't try to, bully us just because you have more authority." And he kind of reversed it on me, right? And it threw me by surprise. Like, I was very surprised how he flipped it, and because I wasn't expecting it, right? I was asking the questions, and I said, "Well, it's not about me." So I flipped it back. I said, "It's not about me. It's about you. Why? I never see you, really get into any altercations with any of the inmates. I never see you curse staff out, get aggressive with staff, even if they're a little bit aggressive with you. I never see you um, doing anything really wrong. You play by the rules. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. You stay under the radar. There's very few people at your age group, because the prison I was working at was a processing camp. So it's like 18 to 24. So you process like 2-3 years, and then you go out to the regular main prison. And there's a lot of fights, a lot of assault on staff. I remember one summer it was like every week, like every week, one or two staff members getting assaulted, usually women. Um, so it was a pretty violent place. And back to what I was saying though, he was like, "I don't know, sir. I'm just, I was just raised that way." And I said, "Okay." So I kept an eye on him, right? I kept an eye on him. And then one day we had cell searches. So if you don't know what that means, basically I'm searching your cell. I go in there, I'm looking for contraband, I'm looking for drugs, looking for phones, looking for just anything you're not supposed to have, right? So I go in his cell. And I was waiting to kind of go in his cell, right? Because I got not that I wanted to find something dirty on him, but I'm like, there gotta be something in here that explains why he is the way he is, right? Because he just stays up very quiet, right? So I gotta be curious, right? So I go in his cell. I'm going in his cell. I look through his stuff. It's pretty organized, and usually when we're doing cell searches, we have the inmates, depending on the custody level, we either have them handcuffed outside their door, or we just have them sitting outside the door, or standing outside the door, right? So he was a kitchen worker at the time. So basically that means he worked either first shift in the kitchen or second shift, right? Breakfast and lunch, or lunch and dinner. I believe he was first shift. He was first shift. But anyway, I'm searching his cell, and I come across this great book, the Holy Scripture book, right? The newest Bible from the Jehovah's Witnesses JW organization, right? And I said, I knew it was something. But remind you, I'm a correctional officer. So why is a JW, in my mind, in a prison? Not just jail, in prison, right? I think he had at this point, I think he had 4 more years or 5 more years to his sentence, right? Don't quote me because I don't remember exact, but it was roughly around that time. It wasn't a lot of time, right? So as I'm searching his cell, it shocked me. So I took it, I put it to the side, I continued searching his cell. And I said to him, I said, what's this book? Right? Actually, I didn't know what the book was, right? So I said, what's this book? So he said, oh, that's part of my religion. And I said, well, I feel like I've seen this book before. So, I played a kind of dumb role at first. I said, I think I've seen this book before. I said, what book is this? He said, oh, it's my Bible. I said, it's your Bible? I said, I don't think I've ever seen a Bible like this. So I said, what religion is this? He's like, oh, Jehovah's Witness. So I said, so in my head I'm saying, he can't be a Jehovah's Witness, right? So I knew that the witnesses would come to the prison. Like my grandfather, on my mom's side, he used to come to the prisons and preach to the inmates and study with them. And I don't think he ever conducted a baptism, but I know he studied with a couple of inmates. So I asked him, I said, you got this from, you know, the church people that come to the, he said no. So that threw me off. I said, no. He said, no, I didn't get that from them. I said, well, where'd you get it from? He said, my mother. I said, oh, okay. I said, where you from again? He said, Charlotte. I said, okay. I said, so your mom gave you this book? Where'd your mom get it? And he said, oh, she was born a Jehovah's Witness, and I grew up a Jehovah's Witness. I said, oh, really? I said, okay. I said, we're going to finish the conversation later. So I had other things to do. So I said, tonight, me and you going to have a conversation. He said, okay. Because he wasn't thinking like I was Jehovah's Witness, right? He just knew something was different about me. So I said, I want to know more about this JW. I want to know more about this Jehovah's Witness thing, right? So I walk away, finish it up for the night, and I pull him out. I didn't want him to kind of get, what's the word for it? I didn't want him to kind of feel pressured. I didn't want him to kind of, everybody else to kind of look at him like, why is he getting special attention from the officer? Like, I didn't want him to people to think that he was snitching or anything like that. So I can't remember his name, but I said, for lack of a better term, let's say Smith. I said, Smith, I need you to come clean the staff toilets and the floors and stuff, and get some toilet paper and stuff like that. I need you to go to the janitor's closet. So that's what we would kind of, if we needed to talk to an inmate privately, so it wouldn't seem like they're snitching or they're got some thing going on with staff. That's what we would do. We would pull them out, have them clean. We would say you're gonna be cleaning. We need to take the trash out. We need you to clean the staff bathroom, just so the other inmates can hear and say, all right, he's cleaning something. Like, that's normal, right? So we would call them. Hey, I need you to take the trash out. Hey, I need you to clean the toilet and the sink in the staff bathroom, mop the floor, all that good stuff. You do some sweeping in the stairwells. So he knew it was coming, right? He knew that I wanted to talk to him, so he knew that for me to say this, that's the reason why I'm saying it, right? Because I never really used him for cleaning. I had other guys for that. So I pull him out. I give him all the stuff to clean. So about 15, 20 minutes, I let him just clean, because if any inmates are walking around, they just see him cleaning. That's what I told him to do. Like I said, I don't want to get him in trouble. So with his, peers. So about 15, 20 minutes go by, and I said, Smith, like I said, that's not his name, but I couldn't remember his name. But anyway, Smith, I said, so yeah, tell me about that. Your mom's Jehovah's Witness and stuff. So he starts talking to me about it and stuff like that. I said, okay. I said, I was raised a Jehovah's Witness. And he was just, his eyes got huge, right? And he said, really? I was like, yeah. I said, I got baptized and everything. I said, and I was kicked out. I said, I'm not going to go into the reason why I was kicked out, but I was kicked out. I said, so you ever baptized? He said, no, I was never baptized. He said, I came close, but I got in trouble. But I was an unbaptized publisher. I said, okay. So you grew up, and it was a single mom, and I think he had 2 or 3 brothers and sisters. So I said, once he said all that, and I got a little background on him, I said, listen, man, I said, you are the kind of person that I would not expect to be in here, even if you get my drift. And he said, yeah, I know. I said, okay, especially coming from the background that obviously we both come from. Even though you didn't get baptized, you still have a knowledge of what's what. And he said, yes, sir. I said, okay. I said, the next question is, why are you in here? Right? Because depending on the prison that you work at, you don't always know their background. Unless they have a really, really violent background, like assaulting staff or something like that, you'll hear like he's in here for this. But for the most part, depending on the prison, they won't tell you their charges because they don't want you to look at them any differently. Doesn't mean you can't get access. They're in prison. We can get access to everything, right? So before he, before I, yeah. So I asked that question, what are you in here for? He told me, right? I was trying to see who's going to be honest with me, right? Because I was going to look it up anyway. And he said, oh, I'm in here for not a good charge. So every time I say that, it's usually something to do with some kind of sexual charge. Because if they were slinging dope, if they were had an illegal gun or something like that, it's oh, it's a gun. It's a gun charge. Oh, I was a drug dealer, or I was pimping or whatever. They'll say something like that. They won't go into detail sometimes, but they'll just say this is what the charge was. He just said it wasn't a good charge. I'm not proud of it. As soon as he said that, red flag. So I said, okay. I said, no worries. You gotta tell me. And he was just like, nah, it's not that. It's just, it had to do with some family stuff. And, I'm very embarrassed about it. I really don't want to talk about it. Say less. Because now I'm like, I'm going to find out. Right. So he finishes up. And I don't think, I didn't find out right away. I think it was like a couple of days. Like I had other stuff going on. I kind of forgot about it. But I knew, in the back of my mind, I knew I had to find out. Right. So me and him spoke, of course I worked there. He lives there. We came in contact a couple more times. I told him to do some stuff. And then one night I had a little extra time and I said to my sergeant, I said, hey Sarge, can you look up his number and his name? So he looks up his number and his name and he says, oh. So I was like, oh what? He's like, oh, this ain't good. Come look at it, right? So I come look at it and it's a sex charge, right? And well, not just any sex charge. It was like he molested his cousin. It's like either he molested his cousin or raped his cousin. It was something like that, right? And a lot of these guys with these sex charges, they have charges with it. The sex charge is something to do with somebody in their family. Usually it's their brother, their sister, um, their own mother, uh, cousin. It has something to do. It's usually not somebody random. It's usually somebody they know, right? So when I saw it, I was just like, oh nah, not this guy, right? But it's there in black and white. I can deny it. I can say it can't be something ain't right, but it's there in black and white. And then it gives you the police report, right? So it tells you what the cop wrote down. And I can't remember everything in detail, but it was very disturbing, to say the least. Very, very disturbing. And man, I didn't treat him no differently afterwards. I still talked to him and stuff like that. I'm a human being. I still looked at him sideways. You know what I mean? I can understand, you went out, you with a girl, and I'm not condoning anything, but like you were drinking and she said yes, then she said no, or she said no, and then she said yeah, and then y'all have relations, and then later on she feels dirty or you don't call her. Now she wants to say, oh, he did this to me. I can understand a situation like that. I can understand, either she's under the influence or you're both under the influence and things happen and now somebody feels guilty or something like that. Not condoning it, but I understand. When you're an adult, I think he was 19, 20 at the time, 21 maybe, and the person is 11, 12, and you're bigger, you're stronger, you know better, and you hurt your own family, I can't, there is no leeway in that for me, right? But when it comes to the JW organization, that aligns. That aligns because they protect people like that, right? So when I saw, I didn't feel bad for him at all. I'm like, oh, you're definitely where you need to be. I was kind of happy because I'm like, they got one. Now I'm not sure if his cousin was part of the organization. I didn't get, I don't know those details, and I didn't ask him those details. Partly it really doesn't even matter because I don't care what the religion is, it's a child. You know what I'm saying? And it was wrong. There's nothing, it's nothing he could justify to say to me right after that, right? So I talked to him a couple times after, and then one day, person I am, I was like, hey man, so I found out your charges. He just put his head down. And I was like, man, it ain't good, man. It ain't good at all. And he was like, yeah. He's like, he told me some BS story. And he's like, I'm trying to do better. That's why, I go to the little meeting they have when the brothers come in and stuff like that. And I ain't gonna lie, I kind of tuned him out. I just wanted him to know that I knew, and that is one of the reasons why I just personally can't come back to a religion like that. Any religion that protects people like that, I can't. Where they should be is where he was at, prison, hands down. No, there's no exceptions on that. There's no There's no gray area. You know what I'm saying? There's no for children. Nah, man. Ain't no excuse for that. So what I learned though is in the prison system and the jail system. Now, I remind you, I worked at 4 different facilities. I worked at 2 county jails in 2 different states. I worked at 1 state prison, which is the first one I'm talking to you about, and then I worked at 1 federal prison. So I've worked every level of correctional law enforcement, right? Every single time, every single time. I mean, on my children, every single time that there was somebody that had a JW Bible that went to the JW little meeting when the brothers would come in, whether it was the jail, whether it was the prison, didn't make a difference which state I was in. Every single inmate that had a Jehovah's Witness Holy Scriptures Bible all had a sex charge. Every single one. Whether it was assault on a minor, just assault, molestation, rape charge, every single one from jail to prison, every single one. White, black. I didn't even run across any Spanish ones, but definitely white and black. Every single one that would go to the JW little meeting they would have, or religious services. When we call for religious services, we would call for like Catholics, we would call for Protestant, sometimes we would call for not Seventh-day Adventists, but Muslim. That was big, of course. And then we call for Christian. And Jehovah's Witnesses are considered Christians, but they're a certain sect of Christians. So when I call for Christians, it wasn't Jehovah's Witnesses that would come. It was just regular Christians. And then when we call for Muslim, like I said, Presbyterian, whatever the religious groups that we had, we call for them. And then when I call for Jehovah's Witnesses, every single one, and I started looking. Since that day, every single one that I came across had a sex charge. So when I would call for Jehovah's Witnesses, I'd be looking to see who goes. I'd be looking, and then once I would see it wasn't many, it was like 2 or 3 or 4 sometimes, I would go search their rooms. And I would pull up their record. Depending on where I worked at, it was easy, it had easier access. And I pull their record, and I'm like, okay, sex charge. It was never drugs. It was never like assault with a deadly weapon. It was never robbery charges, breaking and entering charges. It was every single time I had sex, either sex with a indecent exposure, sex with a minor, or some kind of sexual charge, man. And it disgusts me because my parents would be like, Jehovah always wants you back. You can always come back. In my head, I'm never coming back. Not only did I know what was happening before I left the religion, I'm dealing with the consequences of those that actually got caught in my prison, in my jail. And I'm seeing how they operate. I'm seeing their charges. You think I'm going to bring my family? You think I'm going to bring my kids into that? So I could be in prison? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I refuse. It won't happen. I refuse to put my name to that. I refuse to represent that. I refuse to put my children, which I would do anything for, live, die, and everything above, put my kids in a position to get hurt like that. It's already hard enough to be a parent. It's already hard enough to keep them safe. Now I'm going to put them in the lion's den? Nah, I'm good. Because I know me. I know myself. I know if something happens to my kids, I know what I'm going to do. I know what can happen. So I'm never going to put my kids in that position. I'm never going to put myself in that position, put myself in that position. Because I know me. I know my capabilities. And I'd be foolish to think that just because they allow Jehovah's Witnesses to wear beards now, just because they could, clean glasses, that things have changed. No, things have changed. Anybody that gets caught doing that, I'm glad. That means our tax dollars are going to work. And if I can't watch you while you're in the Kingdom Hall and you're trying to do little things, you damn sure I could watch you in a prison cell and get paid to do it. Get paid to watch your ass. Get paid to watch your ass rot. And I mean that. So, for those of you that are watching this video, thank you. For those of you watching this video that are here because of you're looking, you're searching, you're trying to figure things out. This is just one aspect. This is one thing that they do, cover up. And I was fortunate enough to be on the other side and seeing the consequence of them actually getting caught for doing wrong. And I'm thankful for that. And it even opened my eyes even more and made me more concrete in knowing that I'm not coming back to that. I understand other religions have issues. Not knocking that. Catholics probably have the biggest issue. I understand. They know it. The world knows it. They acknowledge it. That is one difference. Jehovah's Witnesses barely acknowledge it. They had, in the last couple of years, they had kind of really had no choice because the millions and millions of dollars of lawsuits they were paying out is public information from not just the US, but other countries. But if I can help and save some children besides my own, if I can help somebody on here and they're watching this and they're thinking about going where they've been going, and I can help save your kids from being in a position where they can be molested or worse, here I am. Here I am. I hope you guys find value in this. That individual, at this point, he should be out now. But I'm not holding any bars when it comes to that. You should, if you did something to a child, especially be in a position of a religious position where people are looking for you for spiritual insight, spiritual security, spiritual knowledge, spiritual wisdom, and you defy that, if you dishonor that by hurting your children, hurting your family members, hurting somebody else's children, family members, you should be in prison. You should. I stand on that, 10 toes down. And if you know somebody that is going through that and trying to balance that and don't want to put reproach on God's name, put reproach on Jehovah's name, excuse my language, F that, call the police. Call law enforcement. Get them involved. That's what they're there for. And that person should do time. That is my professional announcement. No, I'm saying. But I'm serious. That person should do time. And that person needs to do time. And it is true. When guys come in prison and they have a sex charge, sometimes they have to be housed altogether, because when other inmates see that, they ready to, for lack of a better term, Diddy party them. Yeah, Diddy party. They have expression. Well, they had expression for it back then, but now because the whole Diddy street, he want to Diddy party him. Okay, it's not good. If they don't Diddy party him, they want to beat their ass. I've seen it. I've been in that situation where I had to stop people from hurting somebody, from having those kind of charges. And for me, it's even worse if you claiming that you're a Jehovah's Witness or was a Jehovah's Witness. So please, if you're a parent, if you're a grandparent watching this, please, please, please protect your kids. Protect your grandkids. I'm not saying all Jehovah's Witnesses are like that. because I was Jehovah's Witness. I got my brother can be around my kids. My parents can be around my kids. They're all active Jehovah's Witnesses, and I don't lose sleep at night if my kids are over there. But we do have some sick ones in there, and we do have an organization that will protect those sick ones. So just keep that in mind. Again, my content isn't for everybody. It's not, and it's okay. If you don't like what I say, it's okay. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. But if you can help somebody, share this. If you can help like it, so it jumps the algorithm, so this information can get to somebody else, I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Because it is true. What I've seen with every JW or unbaptized publisher, if they were baptized, which I don't think I ran into any baptized people, definitely unbaptized publisher, definitely people that were studying before they went to jail, went to prison. So these people already had some kind of knowledge. It wasn't like they found God in jail. It was they kind of knew, or they were studying before. So this is nothing new. Okay, so just all I ask is please, 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 this world is getting worse and worse, more and more violent, more and more corrupt. Please hold your kids, your grandkids tight. Please share this video. Please get this information out. Please take care of your family as best you can. And if there's something that does happen, God forbid, call the police. Get them involved. There's already stories all around the country, around the world, where law enforcement and governments get involved because of situations like this. It's sad, but I'm glad it's happening. Hopefully I give y'all some more content that you can think of it as value, because I'm not just on here trying to hear myself talk. I want to honestly give y'all as much value, knowledge as possible, life experience as possible, and I hope you guys can receive it. I love y'all. I respect y'all, and I'll see you at the top. One love.